Thanks for tuning in again. This week is Protect Week, and it's also Men's Health Week. So check out our World Elder Abuse Awareness Month tips, as well as some of our men's health tips at the end of this video. And don't forget to stay healthy, stay safe, stay home, and we miss you very much. Good to see you. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow.
Good evening. I'm Lauren from Social Security. Thank you for tuning in to our Social Security live show tonight. At Social Security, we serve millions of Americans every day by paying retirement, disability, spouses, and survivors benefits. We are committed to providing a foundation of financial security for our nation's citizens. Unfortunately, some of our senior citizens may be financially exploited, abused, and neglected. Often, these challenges rob our elderly of their dignity as they prepare to live out their golden years. On June 15th, we commemorate World Elder Abuse Awareness Day. Did you know that approximately 1 in 10 seniors is abused each year, or that abuse is underreported with an estimated 1 in every 23 cases being reported to Adult Protective Services? World Elder Abuse Awareness Day provides the opportunity to raise awareness about elder abuse, why it occurs, and what we can do to help stop it. Tonight, we are joining forces with Social Security's Office of Inspector General to talk about elder abuse and share tips on what you can do to help prevent it. With us to talk about this important issue is Jennifer Walker, Deputy Assistant Inspector General for Investigations. Welcome.
Good evening and thank you. It's my pleasure to be here tonight to talk about the importance of protecting seniors in our communities.
Definitely. Before we get started, we want to let the audience know that we will be taking live questions on the topic of elder abuse in the Office of Inspector General. If you have a question on this topic, be sure to type it below in the comment box and we will try to answer it later. Remember, do not post personally identifiable information on social media. So Jennifer, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what the Office of Inspector General does?
Sure. The OIG conducts oversight of SSA's programs and operations, and it detects and prevents Social Security fraud, waste, and abuse. Each federal government agency has an OIG that oversees how it operates. I'm the Assistant Deputy Inspector General for Investigations, and I oversee investigative activity throughout the country. We have agents that investigate Social Security fraud in every state. But in addition, we also have auditors, attorneys, and support staff as well. Mainly, we do our job at OIG through our criminal investigations of Social Security fraud and our audits of SSA's programs and operations.
Okay, thank you. And can you tell us more about what OIG investigates and how it does this investigative work?
Yes, we investigate all forms of Social Security fraud to include theft of benefits, including disability benefits. This occurs when someone lies to SSA or conceals information about their situation to collect benefits. For instance, a person may withhold information that would make them ineligible for benefits. We also investigate deceased beneficiary fraud, and this happens when someone dies and someone else fails to notify the Social Security Administration of their death, and then that person continues to collect benefits of this deceased person. In addition, we also investigate Social Security number misuse and threats or assaults against SSA employees or property. In all, we receive about 150,000 allegations of fraud every year from SSA and DDS employees, from private citizens, state or local law enforcement, other federal agencies, and through Congress.
Oh, wow. And can you explain to our audience what elder abuse is?
Yes, sadly, elder abuse encompasses several forms of mistreatment of seniors, including physical abuse, neglect, and financial exploitation. For example, a family member or caregiver could harm or neglect the senior they care for. Another example would be a thief trying to deceive the senior of information to steal their money or financial information. Obviously, this is an important issue for SSA and for the OIG because many of SSA's customers are seniors.
Okay. And how does OIG combat these elder abuse-related issues?
So we do that in several ways. Seniors depend on other people to receive and manage their Social Security benefits in a lot of instances, and we call those people representative payees. The payee receives the Social Security benefits for the senior because they can't manage their own funds. When a payee receives the benefits for a senior and they pledge to use those funds in the senior's best interest, when that doesn't happen, we call that representative payee misuse. We investigate several hundred of those cases every year. Our auditors also do a lot of work in this area to help SSA monitor the representative payee program. SSA wants to make sure that its beneficiaries get the help that they need, so the agency uses our reviews and recommendations from our audits to improve the representative payee program. It's important to note that the majority of representative payees do the right thing by the seniors that they're caring for. Finally, there are several scams out there which can affect vulnerable populations like seniors. We've seen examples where criminals call and pretend to be employees of the Social Security Administration or the OIG. And when someone gets that call, they think it's legitimate because they think it's from a real government entity. And soon they're giving up their money and their personal information. We do a lot of public outreach in that area to make people aware of those scams and to help protect them.
Okay. And what's being done to reduce elder abuse on a broader scale?
So the Department of Justice has made it a priority to reduce elder abuse, to address crimes against seniors, and to raise awareness of this issue. DOJ's Elder Abuse Initiative is working on several fronts to protect seniors from various forms of abuse. For example, prosecuting those who perpetrate these financial schemes against seniors, establishing federal, state, and local task forces to combat the issue, and providing assistance for elder abuse victims. DOJ has a lot of information online about this issue, and their website is justice.gov/elderjustice.
Okay, thank you. So if you're just tuning in, we're here with Jennifer Walker, Deputy Assistant Inspector General for Investigations, talking about elder abuse and how you can prevent it. If you have a question for Jennifer, please put it in the comments section below. We will answer it later in the show. Remember, do not post personally identifiable information on social media. We've talked in general about elder abuse so far. Can you share an example of an OIG investigation related to elder abuse or financial exploitation?
Yes, one in particular comes to mind from a couple years ago that our investigators investigated in the state of Washington. In this case, a woman convinced her landlord, a 78-year-old man, that she needed money to pay for cancer treatments. In fact, she did not even have cancer, and she used the more than $400,000 that he gave to her for a gambling addiction. The man wrote the woman more than 190 checks over a period of time, and luckily his bank became suspicious and alerted his family members. Once the family members started looking into this, the woman's scheme unraveled. Unfortunately, while she was defrauding him, she also applied for benefits from SSA and the state of Washington. To do this, she concealed the money she was receiving from the victim. So while she was defrauding this innocent senior, her landlord, she was also defrauding the taxpayers as well. So as a result of our investigation, the woman pled guilty to her crimes. A judge sentenced her to 2 years in prison and ordered her to repay the money not only to SSA, but also to the victim.
Yeah, wow. That's an unfortunate story, but good work by OIG.
Thanks.
You also mentioned that the OIG works cases where representative payees of seniors commit fraud by stealing benefits. What are some signs of this type of financial exploitation that people can look out for?
Yeah, so like I mentioned before, we investigate several hundred of these cases each year, and they're very disheartening because the seniors are one of our most vulnerable populations. But in these cases, some things to look for is indications that the payee is not meeting the senior's basic needs. They're living in substandard housing, they're not getting the food, shelter, or medicines that they need. Another thing to look out for is suspicious activity on the part of the payee. Is the payee suddenly spending more money on themselves that should be going to the senior? And lastly, any concerns or reports from the senior themselves. Are they complaining about substandard housing, not having adequate clothing, adequate food, or they don't have their medications?
Okay. Well, that's good information. Thank you. Let's talk a little more about the financial and identity theft scams that are out there. What should viewers know about these scams?
So there's several different types of these scams. The first one I'll talk about is impersonation schemes. So this is a communication, usually a phone call, an email, or a text, in which the caller claims to be from a government agency like the SSA or the IRS. I'm sure a lot of our viewers have received similar calls like this. The caller is trying to obtain personal information or financial information or money from their victim through intimidation by saying they are with the government. The second type of scheme we see a lot of is called an advanced fee scheme. They are requests for a person to pay an upfront fee to the caller to receive something of value, like a lottery winning or investment earnings or luxury vacations. I'm sure, again, our callers have received calls where they've won a cruise. You know, I've won several cruises lately. So if someone is asking you to wire them money before you can receive a prize like this, don't do it. That's a pretty good indication that it's a scam or a scheme. The old adage is true. If it sounds too good to be true, it usually is.
Yeah.
And lastly, there are phishing schemes, which can also take many forms, emails, phone calls, text messages, where the person on the other end is trying to trick someone into providing their personal information or their financial information, their SSN, their bank account numbers. So be on the lookout if someone requests that type of information from you. The biggest piece of advice I can give is don't share any information with anyone if you are unsure of who is on the other end of that call or that email.
Okay. And how can people protect themselves and their personal information?
So one of the biggest things to remember is just to know that those schemes are out there. Again, like I said, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. A few quick tips: never provide your personal information to someone who calls you or emails you unsolicited by you. Never agree to accept prepaid debit or credit cards from someone you don't know. Never agree to send or wire money to someone you don't know. And any caller or email that creates a sense of urgency is usually not legitimate. And lastly, secure your personal information. Keep your Social Security card locked up and separate. Shred documents with your personal and financial information on them. Delete suspicious emails. Use strong passwords for all of your online accounts. And regularly check your credit reports for any suspicious activity.
Wow, those are really good tips. Thank you. And where can people report scams and identity theft?
So if the communication involves SSA programs or operations, you can report the fraud to our Social Security fraud hotline at oig.ssa.gov/report. There are also many IRS impersonation schemes that I talked about. So for those, you should report those to Treasury OIG for tax administration. And lastly, the Federal Trade Commission has many resources on their website to help people report and recover from identity theft.
Okay, thank you. So if you're just tuning in, we're here with Jennifer Walker of the Office of Inspector General, who's talking with us about elder abuse and how the Office of Inspector General can help us prevent it. So before we go to live questions, can you repeat for us one more time, what should someone do if they suspect fraud, exploitation, or elder abuse, and where should they report it?
Yes. So if there is Social Security aspect to the case or the allegation, the report should come to the OIG through our website at oig.ssa.gov/report. For other cases of suspected elder abuse, the Department of Justice suggests that in an emergency, contact 911. If it's not an immediate emergency, contact your local law enforcement. You can also report suspected elder abuse to the National Adult Protective Services Association. And they have a lot of useful information on their website as well. And then DOJ also has additional information for reporting financial exploitation and securing victim assistance in your local area. That would be on the DOJ website.
Okay. And if a person reports fraud, what will OIG do with the report? Will it be confidential, and does the person remain anonymous?
Yes, so we carefully review each and every allegation we receive. Once we have reviewed the allegation, we determine what action should be taken. That could include opening an investigation, referring the information to another law enforcement agency, or referring it to SSA for administrative development. However, privacy laws and law enforcement concerns prohibit us from disclosing what we do with an allegation, even to the person who reports it. But most importantly, we do give people the option to remain anonymous when they submit an allegation of fraud, and we take that responsibility very seriously.
Okay, thank you. So I think we have a live question. Okay, so if you want to report fraud, what information must I provide?
So our investigations are most successful when we get as much information as the person reporting the fraud has. The who, what, when, where, how. The more specific information we can get, the better we're able to develop that allegation and investigate it.
Okay, thank you. And I think I have another one. What type of impact does the OIG's investigative work have on SSA?
So last year, like I said earlier, we received about 150,000 allegations, which we review each and every one of them. Last year, our investigations led to about 900 criminal convictions, about $138 million in money returned to SSA, and about $228 million in projected savings to SSA.
Oh, wow. And for anyone who might not know, how and when was the OIG established?
So that was very interesting. The OIGs were established in the 1970s in the wake of the Watergate scandal, believe it or not. In 1978, the Inspector General Act was enacted to ensure the integrity of executive branch employees. Currently, there are about 73 inspectors general. Okay. Almost every government agency has an inspector general.
Oh, very interesting. And I think my neighbor is committing Social Security fraud. What should I do?
So I would say the first thing to do is to contact our fraud hotline.
Okay.
Again, like I said, give us as much information as you possibly can about the neighbor, the particulars, where they live, what's their name, what you think their disability is. The more information we have, the better able we are to assess that allegation and investigate it if probable. Now, I will say that there are times when people are receiving benefits, disability benefits, and they're still able to do some activities like cutting their grass.
Okay, interesting. And I have a couple more. How do you receive these allegations?
So we receive allegations in various ways. We receive allegations from SSA and DDS employees, from private citizens, from Congress. We take allegations in several ways too, through our online form, by phone, fax, mail, and all of our contact information is available at oig.ssa.gov/report.
Okay, thank you. Another one. How much Social Security fraud is out there?
So that is a really, really good question.
It is
and
a good question.
It's a difficult question because it's hard to put a number on or a statistic on a question like that. We only know what comes into us. We only know the fraud that is reported to us. We closely review every allegation and we investigate every allegation that we have the resources to investigate.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. So, I don't think we have any other questions. Okay. So, it looks like we have run out of time. Jennifer, where can people go to get more information?
So I would say for elder abuse allegations, I would point them to the DOJ website. For any information on SSA or SSA fraud, please go to our website at oig.ssa.gov.
Okay, thank you. This has been very valuable information, so thank you again. and thank you for sharing this information with everyone. Elder abuse is a serious problem that cannot be ignored. Some people may not know what to do when they see fraud and elder abuse. Now you've equipped us with the tools we need to take action and report abuse when we see it. So thank you.
Thank you for having me tonight. I was happy to share information to protect our seniors, which can be our most vulnerable citizens.
Yes. Okay. So thank you so much again for joining us. Please tune in tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Eastern Time for our next episode of Social Security Live. Chief Actuary Steve Goss will be joining us to talk about the future of Social Security, so you won't want to miss it. Check us out on social media and sign up for our Social Security Matters blog at blog.ssa.gov. This broadcast will also be closed captioned and made available on our YouTube channel. We'll see you next time.
The OIG Social Security Fraud Hotline receives thousands of Social Security fraud allegations every year. Our trained program specialists carefully review and process these referrals and forward them to our investigators across the country.
The most common cases we receive at the SSA Fraud Hotline is falsifying information that might affect one's eligibility for Social Security benefits, concealing the death of a Social Security beneficiary, and misusing someone else's Social Security number for one's own personal gain.
The depth and detail of information you provide is critical to developing a solid allegation that we can turn over to our federal investigators for review.
The more information you provide when contacting the fraud hotline, the greater the probability investigators will have sufficient information to pursue the allegation.
You may remain anonymous when submitting an allegation. However, please note that if we don't know who you are or how to contact you, we may not be able to complete an investigation. You can also request confidentiality when you submit an allegation to us if you believe that the disclosure of your identity will cause problems for you or place you in danger. If you request confidentiality, we will protect your identity to the maximum extent allowed by law.
For me, planning for my doctor visit is a long-term proposition.
At 91, Albert Bonfleth knows how to prepare for a doctor's visit.
I keep notes from my last visit. I keep a list of all medications. I keep adding to those questions and concerns during the interval from my last visit, so that when I arrive for my appointment, I have my medications and I have the questions and concerns that I wish to discuss with my doctor.
It can sometimes be hard to remember what to tell the doctor, so it's important to make a list before you come, as Mr. Banfleth's doctor advises.
Yeah, I think it's very important for them to bring notes, especially older patients. Family members may have concerns and say, make sure to ask the doctor about this. And if the patient themselves isn't that concerned about it, they may forget. Or as I said, they may be planning to ask the doctor something, but then the doctor starts asking questions that the doctor wants to ask, and the patient forgets what they've wanted to ask.
Take time before your visit to give serious consideration to what you want to discuss.
A person should prepare for a doctor's visit by sitting down and really thinking about what their concerns are, maybe talking to family members so that they will not have forgotten something, and they need to write the things down so they can take full advantage of the time with the doctor.
Having a list also helps you and the doctor focus on what you want to talk about.
If a patient comes in and produces a list with questions on it, makes it a little harder for the doctor to say, okay, I'm finished now, let's go on. When the patient is sitting there with a piece of paper that obviously has things on it, the doctor then is going to be more likely to say, okay, what else? Is there anything else on your list that we haven't gotten to?
Another reason for making a list of your concerns in advance is because there may be time constraints.
Doctor's visits are getting shorter and shorter these days. So I would recommend that you come with a list of your problems, your medications, your past hospitalizations, probably written down to make sure you take full advantage of the encounter.
Mr. Banfleth uses his list to make sure that he and the doctor cover the issues that are important to him.
I go down my list of questions and concerns, and as we discuss each one, I make very brief notes and check them off so that by the time the appointment has been completed, I'm sure that I have completed all the items on my checklist. He said he doesn't feel there's any particular concern.
Talking about your health with your doctor means sharing how you feel physically, emotionally, and mentally. You should be willing to share information about your symptoms, your medications, your habits and lifestyle, sensitive subjects, other medical encounters, and other concerns. Your doctor needs to know about symptoms that are bothering you. For example, if you are having pain, difficulty sleeping, or problems walking, you should tell your doctor. Symptoms like these are not a normal part of aging.
Sometimes people say to themselves, "Oh, I'm just getting old." Aging in and of itself doesn't cause aches and pains. There's usually a reason for that, and you should share that new symptom with your doctor. Many times the doctor will focus on things that may not even cause symptoms, like your high blood pressure or your diabetes. But you need to make sure that the doctor knows if, for instance, your toe is bothering you or you're having stomach pain or something of that sort.
Your doctor also needs to know about all of the medicines you take, including over-the-counter drugs, supplements, and herbal remedies.
Another thing that's helpful for the patients to bring with them is a list of their medications with a notation by the ones that they need new prescriptions for. And on their list, it's important for them to include medications they take without a prescription, vitamins, supplements, herbal, natural products. All those are important for the doctor to know that they're taking.
To provide the best care, your doctor must understand you as a person and know what your life is like. 91-year-old Albert Bonfleth easily shares information with his doctor about his daily life, including his exercise routine.
I walk, I use free weights, and I use a rowing machine. And I do those exercises most days of the week for about 20 minutes to a half hour each day.
Sensitive subjects like sexual or bladder problems are also important to discuss because they can affect your health.
And no changes in your urinary symptoms at all?
No.
You still get up once or twice most nights, or you?
There are two things I wish my older patients would share more readily or more easily with physicians. One is their sexual history. Many times people find that a very private thing that they don't wish to share. And the second is problems with bladder control. Many times people are having problems with that and they're ashamed, they're embarrassed, or they think it's a usual part of aging.
If you have had other medical encounters since your last doctor visit, such as time spent in the hospital, the emergency room, or with a specialist, be sure to keep your primary care physician informed.
And as a matter of fact, I have an appointment with Dr. Phillips.
Oh, you do? Okay. Okay.
Just a routine visit. He'll inform you of the results, but I'll make a note so that I do if he doesn't.
Okay.
Finally, so that the doctor can fully address your needs, don't hesitate to voice any other concerns, even if you think they may be insignificant.
It really is important for the patient to speak frankly, to say what's on their mind, to not be embarrassed, to really feel that nothing is out of play, that whatever they think is relevant and important to their health or their quality of life is something that's important, that is going to be important to their physician too.
Again, to get the most out of your doctor visit, be willing to share your symptoms, your medications, your habits and lifestyle, sensitive subjects, other medical encounters, and other concerns. No matter what your age, it may be hard to remember everything that happens during your doctor visit. Here are some tips to help you recall important information. Take notes, check for understanding, use patient education materials, talk to other members of the healthcare team, and follow up. Note-taking is important, Bring along a notepad and pencil and write down the main points, or ask the doctor to write them down for you.
These are the changes we talked about making in your medications. I'm going to write them all down. And then it's helpful for me too. Then the patient has a copy of that. I usually make a copy of that. And then the patient often comes back on the next visit. They've got their list from the previous visit that I gave them of what they were supposed to do.
If you can't write while the doctor is talking to you, make notes in the waiting room after the visit.
I always add notes to my list, and before I leave the doctor's office, I take a minute in the waiting room, review the questions and answers in the notes I've taken, and expand as I feel necessary.
Next, check for understanding. During the visit, it's important to make sure you have understood what the doctor says. After all, it's hard to remember something that you didn't fully comprehend.
At the end of the visit, you should make sure to say back to that doctor, it is my understanding that I am to do X, Y, and Z, and make sure that the doctor agrees that that's what had occurred during that visit.
Restating things probably is one of the most helpful ways for the patient to say, okay, let me make sure I've understood this correctly. What you've just told me is that I should do this, this, and this, in the morning, but I shouldn't do this until the afternoon, and I should only be doing this 3 days a week.
Use patient education materials. Ask if your doctor has any brochures, DVDs, CDs, or can refer you to any websites that provide information about your health conditions or treatments.
That often it's very helpful to give a patient a pamphlet or a booklet. It's another place where the internet can be helpful and say, okay, here's a very helpful website that when you have some time and you're feeling rested, you can sit down and look at this and read through some of this stuff.
Consider speaking with other members of the healthcare team. Sometimes the doctor may want you to talk with other health professionals, such as nurses, physician assistants, pharmacists, and occupational or physical therapists who may be able to take more time with you than the doctor. Finally, feel free to follow up. If you are uncertain about the doctor's instructions after you get home, call the office.
If you forgot to ask an important question during your doctor's visit, and you realize that after you've left, I would recommend that you call the doctor's office and leave a message as to what your question is. Oftentimes it'll go to the nurse will respond to you. Sometimes it's effective to simply write a note and send that to the doctor's office, but it's important for you to get the information that you need, and you should follow up.
And if you need to leave a message, make sure to provide detailed information.
If it's a prescription question, that they provide the phone number of their pharmacy that they need a prescription called to. And, in the modern era, leave more than one phone number for them to be called back at. If they're going to be in and out during the course of the day, leave a cell phone number as well as a home phone number so that the doctor isn't playing phone tag trying to catch up with them.
When you do the blood chemistry, you always include the thyroid.
Right, we check your thyroid,
and
every 6 months.
It's been within the normal range.
It's been good.
91-year-old Albert Bonfleth knows how important it is to ask questions when he talks with his doctor.
During my doctor's visits, I ask many questions for him, and he patiently answers them in a manner that I can understand.
It is extremely important during the doctor's visit to ask questions. You need to fully understand why you have a new treatment that's been initiated, or why you're on new medications, what the expected side effects are, what the options are in terms of other treatments or other medications, because you will ultimately be responsible for managing what has been prescribed for you.
Mr. Banfleth makes sure he asks about medications his doctor prescribes.
If he prescribes a new medication, I ask him why, and is it a medication that's in common use for this particular condition? When I have the prescription filled at the pharmacy, I also ask them for their information sheet on that particular medication. And usually that information sheet is printed in large print and adds to the information that doctor has already given me.
There are also important questions to ask when the doctor prescribes a specific treatment?
When a doctor prescribes a certain treatment, a patient should ask what specifically are the outcomes to be expected, what are the side effects to be expected, are there alternative treatments that could be beneficial to me, and what are the benefits and the side effects of those treatments.
Also, be sure to ask questions about any medical tests that are prescribed and any diagnoses that you receive. Remember to prioritize your questions so that the doctor has time to address the ones that are most important to you.
Patients, if they do bring a list of things that they want to discuss, that they prioritize their list so that, maybe they have 10 things on the list and there's really only time to cover 3. They want to be sure that the most important thing on their list isn't number 5.
Finally, don't be shy about asking questions. To provide the best care, your doctor needs to know what's going on with you. If something is bothering you, ask about it.
Patients should never feel embarrassed about asking questions. There's no question that's too simple or too stupid or too obvious to ask. If it's something that's important to them, then bring it up.